Good evening. I'm Marilyn Kushner, curator and head of the Department of Prints, Photographs, and Architectural Collections at the New York Historical Society. Before we begin tonight's discussion, I would like to thank our trustees, our Chairman's Council, and all of our members and other generous donors. Your support allows New York Historical to continue to pursue our mission to make history matter. We're thrilled to have recently reopened our doors. To reserve your timed entry tickets, please visit our website at nyhistory.org. Before we launch our program, I want to let you know that it will last approximately 45 minutes, including 15 minutes for questions and answers at the end, which you can submit via the Q&A function on your Zoom screen at any point during the presentation. We have disabled the chat function, so please do make sure to use Q&A. After the presentation, we will get to as many questions as time allows. Now it is my honor to introduce Mort Gerberg, celebrated cartoonist and author who's best known for his work in the New Yorker, the Saturday Evening Post, and other major publications. Mort? I first would like to tell you a little bit more about Mort. Throughout his distinguished career, Mort's work has launched issues ranging from women's rights to social consciousness and from music to politics to sports. At times, his work is commentary. At other times, it is reporting. In his own way, he chronicles American history as he sees it. Gerberg works across any platform available to him, including the comic strip, the single-panel cartoon, magazines, spreads, television, and most recently, he has developed a presence in the digital world. He has illustrated more than 40 books, both for adults and children. In short, Gerberg's voice has been heard across media, across generations, and across the country. And now it's time to laugh. We need to laugh sometime. So could I have the first slide, please? Next slide. Thanks. Mort, I first want to talk about, I want to quote you in something that you said. You said, a cartoonist is like an oyster, both naturally react to an outside stimulus. A grain of sand slips inside an oyster shell, irritates the oyster, and the oyster responds by creating a pearl. Similarly, an event or experience gets under a cartoonist's skin, irritates, stimulates the cartoonist, and the cartoonist responds by creating a cartoon, a pearl of wisdom, if you will.
Right. Well, that's the normal thing of the response, right? It's a piece of schmutz, you know, so I get irritated. The things that bother me most usually get the loudest reaction. You mentioned the political stuff, so that's the most bothersome thing these days, and that's why it comes in. But it's automatic. I have nothing to do with it. Just like the oyster has nothing to do with making a pearl. Cartoonists, you know, we just vent, that's all. So you're looking at Super Baby here. This is the very first thing I did that I can, well, not the very first, but this is about 11 years old. I don't know what I was doing here, probably a lot of stuff following everybody else's things about crime and comic book stuff. So about 11, 12.
So you said, and I'm going to quote you on, I didn't tell you this before, but I'm going to bring some quotes in that you said. I have no recollection of drawing this, which is just as well. Totally derivative, you said, of what you had seen in the comics. But that led into your wanting to do a comic strip for high school, for your high school paper. Tell me about that and who was there before you and why you had to wait until he left.
A high school paper?
Yeah.
Well, that was the Lafayette News.
Right.
Well, yeah, I thought I wanted to get to do a comic strip, and when I got there, I found that the newspaper already had a comic strip, which was terrifically drawn. It was beautiful, and I was so intimidated. I never even went to find out who the cartoonist was, and I never was able to do any kind of a drawing until the other guy left a year or 2 years later. It turned out to be Jules Pfeiffer, who had been doing. I'm sorry, it was not. It was Maurice Sendak, and he had been doing this work. And I met him later, years, and I said, "What did you happen to that cartoon, that comic character that you used that was named Pinky Card?" And he gave it this look. Wow, how did you know that? And I said, "Well, it went back 50 years." Anyway,
Could we have the next slide, please? The ticker you did at CCNY. You were there between 1948 and 52. Talk about doing the cartoons for the ticker.
well, after I had a little experience of doing high school in Lafayette, this is in Brooklyn, of course, and I went to City College because it was free. And the first day I think I got there, I went to the newspaper office, to the ticker, and I had a whole bunch of samples of cartoons that I thought were such. And I got an enormous reaction from the editor there, Ralph Ginsberg. We called him Windy then. Ralph Ginsberg later on became an icon, a very open, loud, for First Amendment rights. Actually, it was a lot of other stuff. But Wendy really loved the cartoons, and I started to do a panel, which I continued throughout my stay at City College, called City Snickers. And that's when I taught myself how to do the single panel cartoon. I never went to art school at all, actually, just to make that point clear. So all of the drawing that I did, I really sort of developed on my own. It was, for better or worse, it was, you know, natural, like the oyster stuff.
Back to the oyster, huh? After college, you went into the Army and edited the newspaper of the Post. And then you did newspaper reporting and advertising sales in NYC. So you were back in New York by 1961. Now, could I have the next slide, please? It's just going to say New York. You were born and bred in Brooklyn, so you're a real New Yorker. And as you said to me, one of the things that you really think about when you do your New York cartoons is, what is New York and who are New Yorkers? And I think we're going to see that when we look at the next few cartoons. Their reactions to real life situations, as you said. And then I'm going to quote you, New York cartoons come with attitude that you can virtually taste, with a New Yorker accent just like mine. Could I have the next slide, please? This is one that I love. It's called High Ceilings. I've always been partial to high ceilings. Mort, please tell the whole story about this because it's wonderful.
This is when I had started to sell some cartoons to other magazines already. The small magazines that were $5 magazines that I was practicing on. And I think by this time I'd sold the Saturday Review and the Saturday Evening Post, I think a little bit, and something else. This was my first sale to the New Yorker. And the thing with the selling to the New Yorker, it was legendary for ignoring you. And or I should say, most like every other cartoonist who actually got into the New Yorker, it was a question of submitting cartoons every single week, like 10 ideas every week, which meant that I would go to the magazine on 44th Street, slide an envelope through the glass window. The woman receptionist would take it, never say a word to me, not a thank you, not a hello, not anything else for a year. And next week I would get it back, the same envelope with nothing in it. That would keep going on. And one day, finally, after about a year or so, with no response at all, there was a note from the receptionist who was waiting for me. And she said, Mr. Gerberg, hang on a second, Miss Nichols will come out. And I didn't know what was happening. And the door to the inner office opened up, and this young woman came out, and she was impeccable, dressed impeccable, attitude, everything else. And she spoke with an Australian accent, mainly because she was from Australia, I guess. And she was holding this little drawing of mine, you know, it was like a piece of paper, you know, holding it, you know, from the end, as if it were sort of infested with anthrax or something. She wanted to hold it as far away as possible. And she said, Mr. Gerberg, I said, yes. She said, we should like to buy this. I said, oh my God, really? You want to buy that? Oh, how wonderful. This is terrific. What do I do? You can, I'll take it and draw it better because it's only a sketch. And she says, no, you can't draw it. I said, yes, I can. I know how to draw. I like to draw. She said, no, you can't draw it. I said, yes, I will. I want. No, it's possible. We'll give it to someone else to draw it. To make a longer story short, it went back for several weeks. They didn't want me to draw it, but I said I wanted to draw it. I didn't know that that was pro forma. That was the regular approach that everybody had in trying to draw and sell cartoons to the New Yorker. But in point of fact, I finally came up with a drawing. It was almost this drawing, but you see the two women down at the bottom in my original version, had been over on the left side of the cathedral, and I had brought it to Mr. Garrett, and he took a look at it, and he, long time, looking at all the stuff with the stained glass windows and the attitude, the pillars, and he said, take those women and move them into the center aisle. And I thought, oh my God, how do you do it? I have to do the whole thing all over again? Look at that drawing. It took me, a long time. Anyway, I did, and finally it ran, and that was my first sale to the New Yorker. What was that, about 65, something like that? So
It was 1965.
okay.
Next. No, not a D, it's a B. B, like in Beowulf, Botticelli, Brahms, 1965. This appeared in the Saturday Review.
This is the quintessential, really, New York attitude. It's not only the subways, which of course is New York, but anything and anybody is liable to be on the subway. Even somebody who knows who and what and where Beowulf, Botticelli, and Brahms would be. It's not, and the fact that, of course, that you always need names to identify the letters of the trains is the thing that makes it up. So I think this is fun. I always love this one.
I love it too. I was immediately drawn to it when we were looking through your hundreds and hundreds of cartoons to choose the show that appeared at the New York Historical Society a couple years ago. Next, please. Only 8 classes at the French Institute, and already he hates Americans. Same year, 1965.
Well, this is great because, I mean, it's attitude. And I look at the guy sitting and reading the newspaper. By the way, the drawings here, this is, what's the date of this? Oh, 65.
Yeah.
This is the way I was drawing. In other words, I didn't know how to do it any different way. These are all pretty much direct drawings. I just picked up the pen and I just sort of drew it, sketching it, and then would put a wash over it. But these are all pretty direct drawings. I remember when I was talking to other cartoonists at the time, and I was asking them, well, how do you go about doing a drawing? And there was a kind of a pro forma accepted way that you do the light sketch, and then you went over it again with a number 2 brush, and then you put a wash on it, or other people put it on a light box and they traced the sketch over it. It was a whole thing. I didn't have time, patience to do that. I just like that. And so that's the way it came out. And it came out with a lot of energy, but I think it worked. I love the guy sitting behind, reading the paper. That was fine. Actually,
well, I mean, I've watched you draw, and you do draw that fast. It's amazing to me to watch you come up with something and have something appear on the piece of paper in about a minute. I mean, it's really incredible. And you see that energy in you that then you transfer to the cartoon.
Thank you. I don't know any other way of doing it. That's okay.
Yeah, well, it's better than me. Better than what I can do. Next, please. I love this one too. Wrong Bus, 1993.
Well, this is totally, as most of these things are, as I said before, it really, the story about the oyster is actually true. The impressions and the things that I write down are really direct reactions to my life. And waiting for a bus in New York City, particularly where you are at a bus stop where there's 5 different buses, there'd be 8, there'd be 6, there'd be 4, and I'd be standing there and waiting there, and it wouldn't be my bus, it would be the wrong bus. And after a number of times, it certainly occurred to me that instead of having, the number of the bus up on top in front of it, it should simply say wrong bus, because that's what it was. And so this is a whole line. It's not a great reproduction, but in the original drawing, you can see that all of the buses behind it, they all say wrong bus. So it's a very, very autobiographical cartoon, as most of them are.
And how many times have we stood in the freezing cold waiting for the bus to come, and it is always the wrong bus. You just missed the right bus, and then all the wrong buses come. Next, please. This is one of my favorite. You know that. One last request. Move my car to the 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Thursday side of the street for tomorrow. As somebody who has played what I call the parking dance many times, I totally related to this cartoon.
Well, this is again totally autobiographic. I mean, for years and years, when he lived on 82nd Street for 45 years, and it's alternate side of the street parking. And I would say I probably did maybe 20,000 cartoons, 50,000 cartoons or something in the car, you know, waiting to move it from one side of the street to the other. I did finished drawings in the car. I mean, it was a matter of doing things, and there's a whole culture about, you know, parking. And actually, an old acquaintance, good friend of mine, Calvin Trillin, Bud Trillin, lived down in the village where I lived for a long time. And we used to talk about the same thing, about finding a good parking space. And a few years ago, Bud came up with the idea of doing a magazine. He wanted to publish a magazine called Beautiful Spot. Magazine bolted aside the street parking. And I was going to be the, you know, the resident cartoonist, but he didn't get funding, so he never did the magazine.
And everybody has the story about their favorite parking spot, don't they? I mean, we all do. It's part
very
of the culture.
Yes.
Next, please. What, are you crazy? We've got tickets to the producers for tomorrow night.
Right. Again, totally in New York City. The producers, as people will probably remember, was one of the hottest tickets on Broadway. You really had to get tickets. And I did have tickets for a long time before it finally showed up. But the idea of this New Yorker, and look at the way this guy is hollering at death, for God's sakes. Who else but a New Yorker would be that? It's all attitude. What, are you crazy? You know, and that's exactly the way I felt about it. It was a whole thing. I mean, I just loved the way the drawing came out, which for me, you know, well, that's where the words and pictures have to really, really mesh and blesh very, very well, to use a great science fiction word. Anyway.
Well,
yeah.
you said, I mean, I'm quoting you now, the guy shouting as a true New Yorker, outraged that anybody, even death itself, had the nerve to mess up the special good time he'd been anticipating, and was certainly in his damn face about it. So I have one question asking you, did you always write your own captions?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. People always would offer ideas. Well, actually, I didn't know that people did buy a lot of ideas, and actually in the olden or the earlier days of the New Yorker, it was very clearly separated that they had people who wrote lines, and they gave them to their artists to draw, and that's why, again, I was unaware of that. And so when that Barbara Nichols gave me, you know, the idea that I couldn't draw my cathedral drawing, I didn't know that. But I just, you know, always loved to have my own reactions to things, and that's what it was. Again, when I first started out, and I had a couple of cartoons that had started to appear in the Saturday Review, all of a sudden I started getting an envelope, strange envelopes that would come in the mail, and there would be maybe 10 little pieces of 3x5 paper with jokes written on them, and I didn't know they were cartoon ideas. And I talked to one of my cartoonist friends, and I said, what is this going on? And this guy is sending me cartoon ideas. What do I want? And the cartoonist friend, Sid, I guess it was, oh, he said, I know him. He's actually in jail. He's a convict. So he was a crook, and he was trying to make some money on the side. But it was a very legitimate occupation. They were gag writers, and they would sell ideas, but I didn't like them.
Okay, next, please. Or we're going to go on. You've got so much to say, but I have to move us on. Women. Okay, I'm going to tell this story. In 1938, you met your wife, Judith, who was very involved in the abortion rights issue. And you tell the story, and Judith said I could tell everybody this, that at your wedding in 1969, at the end of the ceremony, she said, why can't we both stomp on the wine glass instead of just the man stomping on it? So after that, Judith had to okay any number of your cartoons, especially those who you sent to Playboy. And 2 years later, in 1971, you came out with the book Right On Sister, which is all about the women's movement. And here's a picture of it right here. There we have Right On Sister. So let's go to the next slide.
Well, I was doing a lot of women's lib things. I guess this really was, my mother was really the person in that. She was always working hard and doing her things, and it was always equal rights and stuff. This is one of the many cartoons I did before the book. I think this was, I think, in the Saturday Evening Post, but it certainly expressed the idea very, very clearly that women were second-class citizens, even with the PhD and stuff.
Right, right. Because women had to be secretaries and go on for steno and typing.
We did a lot of marching for the women's rights and getting involved in a lot of different areas of that. Not only the single panel cartoons, but yes, collecting it in that book. And then I think you see an
The
idea.
next one is out of that book as well. Next,
The next one is,
we're collecting for Amy. She's not having a baby, 1968.
yeah, there's another one, but from a cartoon, how you do a cartoon using cliches. This was simply the switch, a direct switch of the old cliche of people collecting money in their office for someone who was having a baby. So, you know, the abortion rights was one of the major things, certainly there, and that was the collection.
Okay, next, please. All right, so this is a storyline. You did and you can talk about it, but I just want to give everybody 3 quotes out of here because it's very hard to read these. But it's about Mrs. Claus who wanted credit.
Yeah, let me just overview on this. This is the idea that people did not, all the attention was given to Santa Claus, and that was the idea. And this was Mrs. Claus's revolt, as it were, that she wasn't getting credit.
Okay, so can I read these? I think they're so they're great. Angry, Mrs. Claus was angry at Santa because he stopped off in Miami first before he got home. And she said, "You think I can't tell the difference between windburn and sunburn? Alas, you smell from Coppertone." Or she gave him, she's in one of these images, she said she gave him all his ideas. And if you she says, like coming down the chimney, that was my idea. You wanted to come by the front door like UPS. And then the last one, she says to him, I don't know, Christmas is a tough gig. I work twice as hard as you, but you don't know it. No, neither does anyone else. So it's a great series that you did.
This was the thing that was really a lot of pleasure for me because, as I always said, I like to try different forms. And this allowed me to A, write the script, B, do the drawings. These are sketches that were for a storyboard that I did. And then I did full drawings. And then I also did the voice of Santa Claus. And I had an actress who did the voice of Mrs. Claus. And then this is all animated. I did pieces of drawings each time it became a 5-minute animation that was on CBS. There were a lot of Lynn Sher, a lot of people early in the movement. Gloria Steinem was around on that television station. But the idea that I could do multi forms in this was fun.
Next, please. On to social commentary. Next, please. And now this is mea culpa. Mort has told me this is not social commentary, but as an art historian, I love this cartoon, and so I just put it in somewhere so I could talk about it and show everybody. Imbecile, I said fresh coat, not frescoes. 1964. I think it's brilliant.
Well,
it's
this
collage, right? Yeah.
Reaction again. This is actually a photograph that was from the New York Times Magazine section. And I looked at it and I saw this whole major thing. And somehow in my head, I just thought about how it would be going because it was saying in the caption that it was frescoes. And I'm a little hard of hearing, as my family will know. And so in my mind's eye or my mind's ear, I didn't hear fresh hose, I heard fresh coat, and fresh coat immediately gave me that image of that picture of Michelangelo doing the thing. And it was sort of a collage of just cutting out the photograph as it was and then pasting the other drawing on top of it. It was fun.
I love it. Next, please. Hey, it's really spring, Sheila. The marijuana plant is blooming. Notice it's 1964. That was very early for that.
Yeah, this is social commentary because I was doing a marijuana cartoon in the Saturday Evening Post, which was the most conservative publication, certainly around 1964. And when this actually appeared in the magazine, many of the cartoonists who were in the room when I was going up there were really annoyed. You know, I was this young guy just coming in, one of my first cartoons there. What are you doing? You're going to ruin the Saturday Evening Post here. We do things about dogs coming home from dinner being brought by the little kids, or people, you know, throwing cereal on their heads. That was funny, not marijuana. That was the whole thing. So that was one of the things that I went into in terms of areas of, you know, controversial.
Next, please. Now, this is a little bit later than the other ones. I take it then that we are not the first safari ever to visit the area.
Well, this again, this is a direct reaction. Judith and I had gone on a safari. I think it was 73, something like that. And in truth, when we would be driving up, you know, in this regular safari, all the lions would be just, you know, they couldn't care less that we were there. It was so boring to all of the animals. Nobody was running around. It was very, very calm. And I just took it the next step further to kind of make fun of the idea that these very, very popular commercial safaris were very ordinary to the animals themselves.
Next, please. The thing is, you have to really want to change. This is more recent. This appeared in the New Yorker in 2014.
Yeah, again, though, it is something that was of the time. Everybody was doing analysis. Everybody was really into it. And my brother-in-law, everybody was having a good time with psychotherapy. And obviously, it was a subject that I had used before. And this seemed to display the ideas about change more than anything else. And so, yeah, Ivan had this pinned up over his couch, right, Ivan? There you are someplace? Okay. All right.
Next, please.
Very popular, by the way. I got a lot of reprints on that.
It's a great image. It's a great cartoon. Politics. Next, please. Some of these things are the same today. This is from your Reagan World series. You did a whole book on it.
You got just to hold that up, because the idea about Reagan, about politics, unfortunately, yeah, this was a whole thing of what all of the ultra conservatives of Reagan world, these terrible, terrible social injustices, as I felt, were chronicled by me in this book. I spent more time and more specific things and pages on it than anything else. And the real disaster is that, unfortunately, the same conditions in many cases still exist today as were in 1982. If you can find that.
As we see in the next one. Exactly what you said. Wait, those weren't lies. That was Spin, 1998.
Right. So, it goes on. This is very popular also. And of course, this could have been written for Trump altogether. I mean, who does nothing but lie.
Okay. And we have Trump in the next one as well.
So
Next, please.
This was already something I started to do when I would be on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Some of them also have been going through the New Yorker online. And these would be done daily cartoons. This was one of the first of his investigations. And I don't remember which one it was. I think I could have used the same cartoon about 6 times since I began this. But this is 2017. Okay, yeah, okay. So here we are. I mean, that was, as you can see, it's still going on.
Next, please. Going on to Reportage. I'm rushing us along because I want to have some time for you to answer some questions. All right, next, please. Would you please just quickly say what Reportage is, yes, as you see it?
This was an assignment I had. What I always liked to do, as you can see, was to just draw on the spot very, very quickly. And I would go to editors' magazines and say, there's a story here, and whether or not it was basketball, it was politics, or whatever. And I said, here, 1968 is the Democratic Convention, it's a really big deal. And I got an assignment from the Saturday Review and from Cavalier magazine, and I filled 2 or 3 sketchbooks filled with on-the-spot drawings, to which I then added comments of overheard things or interpretations, which I would scribble in the pages, and it became 2-page spreads in the magazines to give an impression of what was going on by dint of my energetic drawings here and the little notes that I had handwritten in there. They look really great in the exhibition on the wall. Thank you, Marilyn. That was a beautiful
Oh,
display.
you're welcome. And then the final one. And I just, this is about, wait, I just want to say, this is about the Knicks Bucks game in 1973. And you were there reporting on the Knicks, and I was living in Milwaukee at the time. And happy as you were, that's how unhappy I was with this game. So let's talk about it.
Point is, of course, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big sports participant. I play all kinds of sports. I just did it all. And it was natural for me because I knew that the Knicks fans, the people who went to Madison Square Garden, were the most knowledgeable about the game than anybody. So again, here I went to the editor, Dick Schaap, who's the editor of Sport Magazine. I said, the Knicks are really great. And the fans are terrific. How do I do a spread? And so actually I went to the Garden, I think 4 or 5 nights in a row. Judith came with me. And the sketches themselves were that are here in this spread are composites. But you can see the way I wrote little scribbles for each one of these things. And when they were put together, they told the story of a particular game that the Knicks won with scoring 19 straight points in the last 5 minutes. And they won 87-86. It turned out to be a classic game. But the factor of this being what a good example of reportage is, it's kind of reporting, but it's kind of also an interpretive retort. But it's
yeah, go on.
The energy of the drawings is right there.
I mean, and you can really see it in this figure. I don't know if that shows up with the audience, but it says 4.412 to go. Frazier hits from the corner and it's down to 86-74. And what was the final score of the game, Mort?
87-86 when Willis Reed blocked the last shot, trying to take it by the ball player who was then called Lou Alcindor.
Yeah, right.
Abdul-Jabbar. So there. Anyway, history.
I remember Lou Alcindor. Okay, we're gonna. What more? Do you have anything else to say? We could go on forever, but I think there's some questions. But if you want a final comment, go ahead. It's your show. Mort.
No, I'm saying you got a lot of stuff. I'd like to hear if there are questions that people have.
Yes, there are.
Just to matter, just to note that from this, you want to so the book that is there. Just to note that there are drawings from the exhibition that are here. Can you see this book?
Yeah, they can see it.
Okay. And it's got a lot of the drawings that we're showing, and we will getting you'll get a URL or something that will show you how and where to get this. There's a lot of great drawings in here. Okay.
Okay. Did you ever have recurring characters in your cartoons?
I'm sorry.
Well, let me first just say, people who have questions now, please send them in to the Q&A function, and we'll get to as many as we can. Okay. Did you have recurring characters in your cartoons?
Did I have recurring what?
Characters.
I had recurring characters when I did a comic strip. I did a comic strip called Cokie, which was actually about a woman who was a working wife and mother. That ran for a few years. But when I did a normal or regular cartoons, I did not have regular characters. But here's Cokie, if you can see Cokie. She's the comic strip that's in the book that is there. And she was a symbol of a working woman who wanted to be the wife and mother of the whole thing.
Oh, but very timely as well with the women's movement.
Yeah.
All right. Does your signature keeps changing? Why is that? Also, when did you morph from Morty CCNY cartoons to Mort?
Good noticing. Whoever noticed that. It's always interesting to tell by my looking at the thousands of drawings that I've done in the years about when I was doing them. And of course, the earliest ones, if you go back, to that earliest ones, you see it was Morton, my given name, even when I signed it first. And then I tried all kinds of fancy things. Again, it's interesting to look again at the book to see the chronology of it. It was always Morty, I think, through college. I was still Mort Gerberg in CCNY. And when I started to try to be a professional, then it became Mort. And then I spent more time trying to figure out what was going to be looking like a professional signature than actually learning how to draw properly. I spent a lot of time on my signature.
You still remark upon the signature all the time when you're looking at the cartoons.
It's got to be illegible. If it's legible, then it's no good. So that was the thing.
You're making us laugh, Mort. That's what we need. Do you have any fellow cartoonists whose work you really enjoy for the drawing or for the commentary?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Do you have any fellow cartoonists whose work you really enjoy either for the drawing or for the commentary?
Oh, there are so many for different reasons. I mean, Jules Pfeiffer and Ed Sorel are the most beautiful artists and writers of all. I mean, I'm very honored and grateful to know them and have conversations with them about everything. Gary Trudeau and his own ideas. Everybody does a lot of things in different ways, and for each cartoonist has his own or her own voice, and it's really interesting to look at the new generation of people coming up to see how they take the same issues that I've been wrestling or dealing with or screaming out, hollering at for years, and just doing them with their own take. So it would be a long time for me to name everybody, but it's wonderful to see different approaches. Ann Telnis is one of the great political cartoonists today, and she's just fabulous. And the succinctness and getting an idea in 8 words or less, and she's just such a beautiful artist. Anyway, cool.
How many cartoons do you create in a week or a month?
I used to, when I was doing regular magazine work, when there were a lot of magazines, and that's this historical thing also. They used to be in maybe the early 60s, 70s. 70s, I think, were glory days. There might have been 40 magazines that I could sell things to. And I would aim for 10 or 12 ideas a week that I would bring to the New Yorker, and then sort of work way down. The New Yorker was the best paying. Playboy, I did very well with Playboy also, but that's a whole different thing. Sometimes I would take ideas that had been rejected by the New Yorker and put a certain sexist twist on them because that's what was being used, but trying to keep it appropriate. So altogether, I would be putting about a dozen cartoons into the mix every week, so that they would then make their way down from the top paying ones of the most magazines in which I would be preferred to appear, making their way down the New Yorker, Playboy, Saturday Review, Saturday Evening Post, Look magazine. I mean, I eventually was selling them all. Unfortunately, now there aren't any of those magazines anymore. The New Yorker is the last cowboy standing, and even very few of those are getting in. So I'm down mostly to just trying to do stuff online and just posting it. So maybe I'm doing 5 or 6 a week.
Posting it where?
On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can see a lot of my stuff on there. And of course, it's all, right now, all political, because that's the things that's irritating this oyster most these days. And so I got a lot of sand in my craw somehow.
Okay, I have a question I know you're going to want to answer. I see a piano in the room. Do you play piano?
Say again, I'm sorry.
I see a piano in the room. Do you play the piano?
Yes, I play the piano. I play the piano. I'm proud to say at the New York Historical Society last year, Cole Porter's piano, and I love it's one of my favorite things to do the American Songbook. So I probably yes, love to do that. I love to sit and play the piano and make up things.
Okay, one more. Let's see. Wait, I just. It's about, you said that you take inspiration from life, and you took inspiration from the Sistine Chapel. Have you taken inspiration from any other famous paintings?
Oh, I
I
had
can think of one.
yeah, no, I could. That was the thing. I was going to do a book on him. I love to do a book on him. The Mona Lisa. One of my, I think the third cartoon I did for the New Yorker was all of these lords and ladies sitting around this great big banquet table, and it's a big cake in the middle, and a lady jumps out of the cake, and it's the Mona Lisa, you know, and like that, and they're all dressed up. There were a great number of them. There was one with a glass of absinthe was one of my favorite. And what's the one of the what's the one where the lion is sitting down? The Sleeping Gypsy. Oh, I mean, yes, it's a lot.
Show that you have.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Oh, that's right. Sleeping Gypsy was in the show.
Tell the story what your granddaughter said.
Oh, that was funny. We went to the Metropolitan Museum when it was open, and we took Jana to, I think Max also. I can't question Max probably. And we came up the steps, and there on the top of the steps is the painting, The Sleeping Gypsy. You know, which
the real one.
Right.
Well, yours is real too, but you know what I mean.
Done that 3-panel version of it, which was in the New Yorker, and the kids had seen it as well as Lily and Matt, daughter and son-in-law. And we came to the top of the stairs, and Jana sees the painting on the wall, and she says, "Oh, look, that's Pop-Pop's drawing."
As if the idea was yours, right?
So yeah,
it's just as good. It's a great cartoon. It really is.
It's just fun to do stuff that's very popular, and that's to turn it around. A lot of people have done stuff like that.
And one of the questions, and I think you've answered this, but do you ever work in color?
Oh yeah, well, of course, most of the stuff that I had been done in color was for Playboy, because that they wanted. I was doing a lot of just, well, you would call, and which were the social comment stuff, social commentary, and this was just the black and white single panels that Playboy would run in the back of the book, so it was just black and white. One of my weak suits, which is the debate of my wife's existence, is that I'm not very economically driven. I'm not really aware of making money a lot, and so it didn't occur to me, or I didn't really know so much, that color cartoons in Playboy paid 2 or 3 times as much as the black and white cartoons, and I hadn't done them. However, the point was that Hefner only wanted to use full-page color cartoons if they were full of sex. So I would have to put on my sex head and put on color, and then put that in to try to get some more of those. So most of them were actually of that ilk in Playboy and in color. With the exception sometimes of some illustrations. Oh, my children's books. I did a lot of color in children's books. I did, 15 to 20 children's books, something for the kids too. And that was always fun to work with. A lot of color in that as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Mort. I've been smiling for 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and it's been a long time since I've had a smile on my face for that long. So we thank you. We've run out of time. We could go on forever. We look forward to seeing you back here, the audience, in 2 weeks on December 2nd for the next episode of Curator Confidential, Inside the Turquoise Box. Tiffany Silver with Deborah Schmidt-Bach, Curator of Deck Arts at the New York Historical Society. And again, Mort, thank you so much. It's been great fun to sit and talk to you. Bye, Mort. Bye, Mort. Talk to you soon. Take care, and everybody stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.